All right, yes. So at the top of every Midweek with Max, as everybody knows, we give our partners 5 minutes on stage to say whatever they like to the amigos and amigas in our audience. And this time we have Root from Relend. And this is your chance, Root. Introduce yourself to the Hemi community. Tell us what Relend is all about.
Awesome. Great to meet everyone. Yeah, Root here, also known as Enio. It's my actual name. Co-founder of Relend. I do pretty much everything on the business side. Our CTO is a brainchild. He's been consulting risk for lending markets, money markets for the last four or 5 years. And the problem became quite evident of this chicken and egg where ecosystems, specifically money markets, which are the core of most DeFi ecosystems, are unable to gain momentum because suppliers won't come unless there's borrowers, and borrowers won't come unless there's suppliers. So we've designed a model. You can think of it as a liquidity maker baby, where we LP funds directly into money markets on the supply side. They become collateralized within the borrow transaction. And this allows for the supply side to be solved, which in an ecosystem like Hemi, where there's heaps of BTC which exist in lending markets, that capital can then be unlocked and filtered into DEXs, derivatives protocols, or wherever else stablecoins need to be used. To break down the design and the thinking a little bit more, a lot of ecosystems, if you sort of go into DeFi Llama and pretty much click on any chain which has TGE'd, you'll see this huge spike in TVL, stablecoin, and non-stablecoin TVL, and then a gradual decline over the next 3 to 6 months as the mercenary incentives dry up. This is largely due to the fact that if you, say for example, have USDC, you might want to take part in a Blast pre-deposit campaign or a Manta pre-deposit campaign because you see this upside, and then once the campaign is finished, you look at the DeFi ecosystem, you think, okay, where do I deploy my USDC? You look at the lending markets, there's not so many borrowers, therefore the yields aren't great, and you bridge your USDC out and you put it back into Aave on Ethereum or Morpho on Ethereum. So our USDC, the hypothesis and sort of what we've seen with the integrations that we've had, is much stickier because the cost of capital is essentially low as long as the funds stay within the ecosystem. Then what we do is we hold our reserve of USDC on Ethereum, and we allow for one-to-one RUSDC to USDC redemptions, which maintains the peg. So in a nutshell, that's sort of what we're about. Basically, credit for Hemi. We've been in chats with the team for a while. We're just finalizing a couple of things. Ideally, should be live as soon as Morpho is up and running. Otherwise, we might move forward with a zero lend or a layer bank.
All right, and how we always end this is we always want to ask our guests, okay, if it's one thing you want this audience to do as soon as this session of Midweek with Max ends, what do you most want them to do?
I don't want to pull your users away from your ecosystem. I think the more exciting opportunities are coming once the integration is live. But I would say check out the yields on Relend, stable to stable pairs on some of our partners, up to sort of 40% plus, some zero impermanent loss strategies, sort of over 100% APYs on RUSDC. Otherwise, just LP into the Relend USDC vault on Morpho, which will give you access to relending yield.
All right. Well, Root, you're of course welcome to stay, but we won't be insulted if you're busy and you have to go on to your next thing. But this time around, we actually have both our co-founders up here on stage, which is going to be great. And I know that we've got a lot of questions lined up. Rick, should we go to the regular updates and then get to the questions?
Yes, sir. I'd say let's do
All right.
condensed updates if possible, because we have a lot
Sure.
of questions.
Sure. I'll do mine first. Really simple. We are supporting Bitcoin Pizza Day in New York City a week from this Thursday. So hey, if there are any amigos here in the greater New York City area, send me a DM, won't you? We're going to be helping Pizza DAO celebrate Bitcoin Pizza Day, which is quite awesome. And just yesterday, we signed the sponsorship for permissionless in New York in June. Really looking forward to that, especially since we're actually sponsoring the lanyards. So whether you're a competitor or not, you're forced to wear our logo, and there is something just deliciously evil about all of that. We're also going to be sponsoring the registration table. It's going to be hard to get away from us. We are sending a big old delegation to Vegas for Bitcoin 2025. Stay tuned there. And not wanting to say too much, but we've got some more podcast interviews in the pipeline and that sort of thing. So keep watching our socials for the latest updates there. All right, Max, go for it.
Cool. I'll keep this quick. So we did the Pectra upgrade last week, or at least support for the L1 performing its Pectra upgrade. And then we're doing some final testing, and we'll be activating the Pectra EVM features on L2. And so just doing some final testing, we'll get those scheduled. Testnet will definitely be this week, and then mainnet will either be probably Thursday or next Monday, if depending on how the testing goes today. And other than that, a lot of work behind the scenes on daemon refactoring, so just making the pop miner easier to use, BFG easier to run as an independent stateless daemon. So once this whole refactor is done, you'll be able to connect your pop miner to an opgeth RPC endpoint, and then we'll unify our whole RPC infrastructure to just a single endpoint instead of pop mining going to the separate BFG system. And then BFG will return to its true role as a Bitcoin finality calculator, security statistics emitter, so on and so forth, that can be run independently. And also some TBC improvements for being able to run that as a independent Bitcoin node that then BFG can hook into and use for the Bitcoin state that it needs to calculate finality off of. And a couple other minor things in the works, but I think those are the big things. And then also working internally on some of the final science and game theory behind the BitVM style Bitcoin tunnel design. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers the engineering side. I don't know, Jeff, if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Nothing to share publicly, just to tease the audience that I'm working on a lot of exciting stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'll throw it back to Rick to start going through questions.
Sounds good. We have a lot of them. I got some Jeff-specific questions. I also have some Jeff and Max-specific questions, and then our usual general standard questions. So this one is for Jeff. Why is Hemi different?
Oh boy. So let's do we have another hour for me to answer this question? Just kidding. So many answers for this. For me as a Bitcoin developer, from the Bitcoin developer point of view, this absolutely levels up Bitcoin programmability. Bitcoin script, the smart contract capability that's actually built into Bitcoin itself, is very well designed. It's very secure. It's very bomb proof, but it's also by that nature very limited. And that's its strengths, but also a bit of a weakness. And we have Hemi Bitcoin Kit and Hemi, which builds on top of that and extends that to EVM smart contracts. So from a Bitcoin developer point of view, what makes Hemi different? It's I hear the soundtrack from The Sound of Music playing in my head, and I'm gonna break everyone's ears here. It's a whole new world. That's what plays in my head when I think about Bitcoin programmability, because it really does extend that much. It's tough to communicate to non-programmers what HVM and Hemi Bitcoin Kit do. So that's one perspective. Another perspective of what makes Hemi different, excuse me, is that most of our other competitors, both on the ETH L2 and Bitcoin L2 sides, they just staple gun and EVM. They either fork Optimism and call it a day, or they staple gun and EVM to a Bitcoin anchoring solution and call it a day. Neither one of those is very creative. Neither one of those has the technical depth of the Hemi ecosystem and the Hemi protocol and Hemi Bitcoin Kit. And specifically, the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, is kind of like I fear I get too much into tech land here, but it's a little bit like a CPU. And CPUs have these things called instructions, and that's what makes everybody's computer go. And similarly, smart contracts compile down to these instructions called bytecodes. Well, we invented new bytecodes that extend the Ethereum virtual machine, the EVM, to talk directly to Bitcoin. No one's ever done that before. And that is why we call it the HVM. So that's another way, what makes Hemi different. We don't just ship an EVM, we ship an HVM. It's like EVM plus plus plus. And what else makes Hemi different is obviously I try not to get too much into price talk and TVL numbers and stuff like that, but obviously we're the biggest Bitcoin side chain. We're over 1 billion in TVL, and that makes a difference, and that makes an imprint in the room. What makes Hemi different? Finally, we're thinking 5, 10, 20 chess moves ahead of our competitors. We're not just a Bitcoin L2. We're not just an Ethereum L2. We've connected Bitcoin and Ethereum, the king and queen of crypto, and we're researching connecting other chains as well. And so, again, I could go on and on and on. I don't know if Max wants to add his perspective as well, but I literally have multiple answers for what makes Hemi different.
No, I think you covered everything. I would just add, we also, when you look at other approaches, obviously we're in a semi-centralized state now and we're working on decentralizing that, but the way that we're structuring the entire tech framework lends itself to that decentralization that a lot of other chains, the way that they're approaching, whether it be some Bitcoin interoperability solution or whatever, doesn't really lend itself to decentralization the same way the foundation that we've laid has.
All right, that was
we're built for decentralization. Another way to put it. Back to you, Rick.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned Bitcoin programmability, and I have some follow-up questions from the community. What is a programmable Bitcoin chain? And with Bitcoin now programmable, what can you do with it? And specifically, how does Bitcoin programmability in Hemi work?
Well, I'll let Max dive into the details. It's not a question of Bitcoin was not programmable before, just to be clear. Bitcoin was programmable before, but again, it's and again, this is where I pride myself on being a translator, meaning translating techie geek nerd speak and details into something that non-technical audience members can understand. And this one is kind of tough to parse. But overall, I think that programmability, I can explain it easily to developers. Bitcoin programmability was very limited. It didn't have self-sovereign contract addresses like Ethereum has. And so you're limited in how autonomous the smart contracts on Bitcoin can be. Furthermore, you can kind of do a lot more with Ethereum and EVM smart contracts than you can with Bitcoin smart contracts. And finally, Bitcoin smart contracts frequently require multi-sig signers that are online versus programmed logic that's being validated. So it's a lot more of the rules can be expressed on chain. And obviously, on chain is always our ultimate decentralized goal. If it's on chain, then your blockchain is your neutral referee against all counterparties. And so on chain is the gold standard. And if all of your rules, your programmability is on chain, then that's same obviously better than, oh, some rules are on this off-chain validator and some rules are on chain and some rules are in the wallet, and it just creates an insecure mess. And so having more programmability overall actually increases your security because you're not hacking around it with partial solutions, which was with my graybeard status on what I saw for 2010 to 2015, the first 5 years of Bitcoin's life, before we got Ethereum and some of the more programmable solutions. So that's kind of the high level. I hope I translated that a little bit for our non-tech audience. Hand it over to Max for other aspects of Bitcoin programmability.
Yeah, sounds good. And I'll try to keep this high level, but fundamentally, when you look at the not only just on Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin L2 space and some of the stuff that people have tried to do with Bitcoin programmability on other chains like Ethereum, there's basically two types of programmability. So there's, take Bitcoin and, magic hand wave, it becomes an ERC20 token, and then you can program that ERC20 token just like you could anything else in the Ethereum ecosystem. But then there's a whole other class of programmability, which is building Bitcoin-aware, more bare metal Bitcoin applications that don't just interact with an ERC20 that somehow represents Bitcoin. And then, you have to ask about the custodianship model and the security and whether it's a collateralized system and blah, blah, blah. But being able to program, quote unquote, directly on Bitcoin lets you build a new class of DeFi applications that don't introduce that risk of wrapping that custodianship system, whatever that may be. And so with something like HVM that gives you direct smart contract access to Bitcoin data in a way that's fully permissionless, fully trustless, there's no oracles, there's no relayers. Now you can build Bitcoin native applications like, say, a non-custodial DEX or a non-custodial lending protocol, where all the settlement of Bitcoin is done directly, immediately on the Bitcoin network. And so it's a different way to think about designing applications. It requires, if you're the original developer who wrote the prototype for Uniswap, if you want to write a Bitcoin-aware DEX, you're going to have to think about the problem a little differently, because you have to understand Bitcoin's UTXO model and some stuff about, timing transactions and collateral and how to construct an order book that matches participants on both chains and facilitates, triggering of actions on the Hemi chain in response to an action occurring on Bitcoin or whatever. But the developers who do that deep dive and understand how to build these more Bitcoin native apps, they can deliver better, more secure, faster user experiences for what is really true native Bitcoin DeFi versus, hey, we're playing with this Bitcoin representative token over here and we don't really know what's going on under the hood. So we're focused on both, and we think both's important. You can't build everything you can build in the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem using a system like HVM. And so you need both approaches, and that's why we have both the ongoing work to further decentralize and secure the Bitcoin tunnel system with BitVM and using some unique features of HVM to power that tunneling mechanism. But also with HVM, something that we're doing that nobody else is doing is for those applications where you are able to build smarter Bitcoin native apps if you just had access to basically a periscope into what's happening on Bitcoin. We're not providing that to developers. And so to look a little into the nuance there, there's been other approaches that try to bring Bitcoin data on chain in some way that smart contracts can access, but they've all been significantly limited. So there's a trustless or close to trustless version it's been around since almost as long as Ethereum's been around, called Header Relay. And what it does is it basically has third parties relay Bitcoin headers to a smart contract, and the smart contract can validate them and kind of maintain this knowledge of Bitcoin's high-level consensus state. And then individual users can bring on cryptographic proofs that a certain transaction is in a certain block. And if that block is in what the smart contract believes is the canonical chain, then the smart contract can parse that transaction, that Bitcoin transaction, and do something with it, like seeing, okay, yeah, somebody did transfer, this amount of Bitcoin to this address or whatever. But the way that Bitcoin's architected, the main limitation with Bitcoin programmability is Bitcoin script itself, like Jeff already talked about. But the other limitation that's a little more nuanced that a lot of people learning about Bitcoin programmability may not immediately realize is that the Bitcoin state machine is really the UTXO table. And that's basically, you can think of it as a spreadsheet that Bitcoin maintains of all of the addresses and the outputs that they control. That's a little bit of a misnomer because not every output is an address. Outputs are really spend scripts, and you need to satisfy spending conditions to be able to, break open the piggy bank and put the coins in a new piggy bank. But that UTXO model is not cryptographically authenticated to the Bitcoin headers in any way. And so with that Bitcoin header relay approach, you can prove a transaction on Bitcoin exists, but you can't prove that an output is not spent. And for most protocols, that's actually the most important data is, where is Bitcoin sitting right now? Has it been moved? Has it not been moved? And so other approaches that try to solve that and bring knowledge of the UTXO table on chain generally devolve into some sort of like centralized Oracle relayer system or something of that sort, or a really complicated, really expensive ZK proving system that to this day has not really got any adoption. It's more of just an academic theoretical idea, and it would be very gas inefficient on-chain to use. And so HVM gives you all of the data from Bitcoin that you could ever want with no trust models. And so if you're going to build those Bitcoin native applications, HVM is by far the way to do it.
Oh, sorry about that. I was like trying to mute like 3 things at the same time. That was awesome. Thank you guys. Here is one for Jeff. But obviously, Max, please feel free. It is your show. What does the Hemi token do?
I'm gonna be intentionally vague until it's released. I don't want to get into too much detail. It provides the utility to the Hemi network and attaches the economic value to that utility and exercises the community through that utility. I know that's very philosophical, very vague. It's intentionally so. We're going to release details about the Hemi token in forthcoming, but as it stands now, I don't want to release the wine before it's time.
Yep, I'll leave it there too, but more info definitely coming soon.
All right. Well, let's just burn through this one then. When TGE/tokenomics? You knew it was coming.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to a fantastic Christmas present this year.
Before GTA 6.
That is totally reasonable. Okay. Hemi and EVM. How different or familiar is it?
I think we kind of covered that a bit earlier. Hemi's virtual machine, or HVM, I call it EVM++. And the reason why I call it that is that it starts with a baseline of the Ethereum virtual machine. Then if there are any optimism tweaks to that, and Max can speak to that, Those are there. And then we add in Bitcoin opcodes on top of that. So we extended the Ethereum virtual machine in a very fundamental and core way to support the BTC L1. That again is not something that just about any other chain does. I think there are one or two other very rare chains out there that do that, but it's incredibly unique. It's very deep tech. Everyone else just photocopies the EVM. We understand. We modify with plenty of safety checks, unit test guardrails, etc. The EVM and extend it to the HVM. So it's everything the EVM is, including 100% backwards compatibility. So all the smart contracts that work on the EVM on Ethereum, they'll work on on Hemi. All the smart contract auditing, the knowledge and experience that you don't see, you don't think about, but the auditing engineers that have years of security experience, when they audit our and our partner app smart contracts, all that experience is imported into Hemi automatically. We kind of get it for free in a way. And that's from building on the EVM, you get a lot of that Ethereum ecosystem developer experience, security experience, etc., that you don't get if you're like a Move blockchain or some other technology. It doesn't matter how good, that was just invented last week, last month, last year. It hasn't had time to season on the internet's trial by fire, where there's literally multi-billion-dollar hack bounties if you hack Ethereum. Obviously, you can get away with a lot. So people say that there's a multi-billion-dollar hack bounty on Ethereum. And so that has levels of protection. Think about that year over year. That has levels of protection that brand new blockchains just don't have. So we inherit so much from Ethereum, and then so much more through proof of proof and Bitcoin super finality that other, again, brand new blockchains just don't get. So when I think about Hemi and the EVM and the HVM, those are some of the things that I think about, is try to compare contrast with other blockchains and think about the things that aren't necessarily visible that are, keep your ecosystem secure. And it's a lot of this, imported wisdom that's been around and baked into the code for years and years and decades.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. Oh, okay. Here's a fun one. Do you see a need for NFT and gamified projects on the chain, or is Hemi more of a specialized chain that will primarily focus on liquidity?
Well, I think everyone can and should have a different answer to this question, because ultimately the market tells us, the community tells us what Hemi is. In the decentralized world, it's not Satoshi told you what Bitcoin was. Satoshi published Bitcoin in an open, permissionless way, and the market spoke and told us all what Bitcoin was. And so I think there are different answers to that. And I would say that Hemi is not focused on liquidity so much as it's one of those necessary components to have a useful ecosystem with users that can easily bridge in, bridge out, swap in, swap out. It's just from a very boring plumbing perspective, you need water in the pipes. And so a lot of that's just very mechanical and early days bootstrapping. So I wouldn't even say we're focused on liquidity so much as you just need some water in the pipes, and that's plumber's tasks. That's not the top line interesting stuff. The top line interesting stuff to me is Bitcoin DeFi. How much yield you can get on chain, how you can collateralize Bitcoin and borrow stablecoin, how you can how Hemi is kind of becoming a grand central station for these Bitcoin LRT LSTs, and where you can interchange in a neutral way, which is very blockchainy, interchange any number of Bitcoin LRT LSTs for each other. Over at sumer.money, just to pick one, not elevating that, but just as an example, over at sumer.money, you can mint more synthetic Bitcoin using some of the existing Bitcoin. And they're experimenting in that particular direction. And that was happening because, again, Hemi's kind of becoming a hub for Bitcoin. It's when Bitcoin fees are too high, or you need programmability, or you need liquidity for LRT, LSTs to interchange. Hemi's starting to become a hub for that. And so Bitcoin DeFi, again, is the headline for that. And I think that's one of the things that Hemi is circling around. You don't need gamification and NFTs for that, but I think it's a healthy and natural component. Kind of like, think about the Gartner hype cycle is there's the height of exuberance, and then the trough of disappointment, and then the third stage is you finally figure out what's real and what's not, and you know how to use NFTs appropriately and not use NFTs when it doesn't make sense. And so I personally think that NFTs are great for I was here when. I love I think it's called POAPs, but freely minted NFTs that say I was here, and they're not transferable. It's not a let's monetize every moment kind of thing, but more of a badge or a tattoo. I think that's a real community-centric type of shape for NFTs, and I think that's fantastic. I think that there's some stuff that can be done, like Hemi Club is a concept that we batted around the office a bit, which I think is really interesting, and it should be developed further, which is quite interesting. So, but that's again straying into my personal tastes. And it's not about what I want, it's about what the community wants, it's about what the market wants. And the market is really going to tell us, I think, on this as so many others.
And this will probably sound like mostly a recap of what Jeff already said, but Hemi is fundamentally an infrastructure play, and we're trying to provide a environment of programmability that's safe, secure, and combines Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so at the intersection of all that, there's a lot of great opportunities from cross-chain DeFi, Bitcoin staking, but that also sets a foundation for all kinds of, if you look at a gaming app, the reason it wants to live on a blockchain is generally tied to some sort of, financial thing, whether that be creating NFTs that represent in-game items or whatever. And so, while we're not going to optimize the Hemi L2 for, a use case like high-speed gaming and prioritize that over, chain decentralization, for example, that's usually a trade-off that's made with, transaction throughput, block time versus decentralization. That's the kind of thing that people will be able to innovate on in our future L3 ecosystem. So if somebody wants to deploy a chain that's optimized for the use case of gaming or AI or whatever, they'll be able to do that as an L3 that's still economically connected to the entire Hemi ecosystem. Everything we're bringing in from the Ethereum side, from the Bitcoin side, all the assets, cross-chain programmability. And so we're trying to build that infrastructure, that foundation, so that people can innovate in whatever direction they want and do that either if it fits on Hemi L2 directly or on an L3 that's economically connected to the rest of the system.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. What is Hemi's progress? That's the question.
Well, yeah, I guess it's tough to, take a step back for weekly listeners. They get the weekly updates, and honestly, I think that's the best answer, which is in the present tense. I'll give a meta answer in that how many other projects give a window on a weekly basis into the weekly progress of the team and access to the team like this. I think few, if any. So I'd like to think that we're at the top of the stack there. So there's a meta answer. Hemi, wow, I'm amazed, frankly, at the progress. There are so many metrics. Again, this answer is kind of multi-dimensional. We've spun up a test network, and we stress tested Ethereum testnet. We stress tested Bitcoin testnet during the testing of our own testnet, which was fantastic. We grew a fantastic community. Talk about progress there, and Pat, Rick, and the community mods on the back for doing an amazing community job, progress-wise there. The Discord, I am not a Discord expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty huge, and keeping it organized is something that y'all do a great job of. So really shout out there. And that's so amazing progress on the community side. Obviously, we took it to mainnet. We are live with real money to the tune of over $1 billion, which is amazing considering where Max and I were 2 years ago thinking about the design of Hemi and kicking off the project internally. And just look at where we are now from there to today. That's an amazing amount of progress. And we're not even, this is not even at TGE. This is not even at the kind of app kickoff where we're at 100 apps and we start to really exponentially grow from there. It's such early days, but at the same time, I'm really amazed at the progress. The team, the community, the partners, the users, the expansion throughout the partner ecosystem, where we're starting to get listed on CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, DeFi Llama, these other data aggregator sites. They're either aware of us and starting to onboard us, or we're already listed. So multiple axes of progress. John and Phil and Max probably have other answers, and I'd be interested, frankly, to hear their answers too. But across multiple dimensions, multiple axes, amazing progress in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I'd echo all that, and I usually stick to more of the tech accomplishments and roadmap. But yeah, seeing the on-chain growth has been absolutely amazing. Seeing, one of the things we're focused on between community building and the protocols we bring on, and the liquidity that we're getting and different things that people need to use the ecosystem, the water in the pipes analogy. It's just great to see the adoption, the use, people trying out new protocols, playing around with it. The BD team's done an amazing job of bringing in interesting protocols. Some of those are the major protocols you see elsewhere and everyone knows and understands. And we have a lot of protocols, some deployed, a lot in the pipeline that are more unique, more interesting, that want to either build around HVM or do something unique with Bitcoin in the context that Hemi provides, even if it's not HVM technically. And so all that energy is really exciting to see. It's one thing to build a technology and get it, working and write a white paper about it. It's another thing to see people adopting it, using it, excited about it. And that's been just incredible to see, both in testnet phase and everyone jumping on, testing, creating, tons of load, finding edge cases, to then in mainnet seeing, even maybe we don't have a 10 billion EOAs yet, but the EOAs that are interacting on the network are doing interesting things. It's unique. It's not, checking in and minting a, NFT and then disappearing. It's real activity. It's engaging with new protocols. And so that's really exciting to see.
I'll hop in. Going back to mainnet launch day, actually, I remember we had a perpetual war room going on in Zoom, where members of the team would just kind of hop in and out, and one of my fondest memories of that period is Rick and I on the war room call, basically going, "When was the last time we had this much fun at work?" And and if you look back to that week, I kind of like, everything sort of has, I divide up from, pre-launch, pre-mainnet launch and post-mainnet launch, right? Not a lot of people recognize this, but, there was another major network that had its mainnet launch that day. And it's one that I imagine has spent more in marketing than probably we've ever raised. And our launch was absolutely 100% the superior of the two. That was really great to see. It's a testament to the technology, the problem that we're solving. It's a testament to the broader team. And it's a testament to this community, right? I mean, what's been really rewarding for me is every morning, I pop into this Discord, and it's interesting how this group has gotten sort of its own vocabulary, its own memes, its own inside jokes, and that's how there is a healthy community. And to echo Jeff's point from a little bit earlier. Look at the fact that so many of us get together Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, pretty much without fail, to have these discussions. I mean, I go into Discord town halls all the time, and too often they kind of feel like I'm at a wake or something, and just the energy I get every time I jump into this community here has been great, and it's something I've been looking for a very long time. And so looking to see that progress translate, as I say in almost every call, more externally, all the energy that we have here, I think is energy that is infectious and needs to be externalized. I guess my final point also is that, what has also been very rewarding for me is the eager participation of our ecosystem partners. If you remember on launch day, a lot of people commented on the quote cards. We had all these, quotes from our partners, showing up in social media, and everybody had their day one animations and all that fun stuff. And it was for that we ended up trending on Twitter, which was for me a career first. I was really happy to see that. So yeah, I mean, when I look at the progress and I recognize how far we have yet to go, this is absolutely the tools, technology, team, talent that we need to get there, and a lot of that we owe to the amigos and amigas here. So that's it. I'll get off my soapbox.
All right, thank you, everyone. And to add to what Phil just said, we did trend on Twitter, and shockingly, it was a koala with pixelated sunglasses and a tracksuit. Don't see that every day.
Yeah, that was the image that the Google algorithm picked up of all the images it could have picked up.
Yeah, and now my inbox is still flooded with "Remember when I trended." That's fun. All right. So here's a good one. How do you assure conservative Bitcoin holders that Hemi is a safe place to earn yield, assuming that a very small minority of Bitcoin holders are willing to earn yield on them?
I'd say I'd start with Bitcoin finality and Hemi's design. Excuse me, it's pollen season here in Atlanta. Hemi's secure Bitcoin super finality, Bitcoin's security itself. We're inheriting security from Bitcoin. To me, that's always been the bottom line, and one of the reasons why I was super excited to get involved with Hemi at the very start. Rewinding in the time machine. And so this is an extension of that. Again, recalling my earlier comments about the what I'll rephrase as time in field or seasoning. This is again a very subtle and sometimes invisible concept. When things work, you just kind of realize that they work, and when they don't and they break, things are obvious. Well, when things have been working for years without breaking, there accretes a number of benefits. One of those, again, the human side. You have a lot of knowledge about the security of the ecosystem. Smart contracts get more secure, etc. And so knowledge really accretes, security does, etc. And so that seasoning factor in the EVM as well as Bitcoin matters. So we're built on Bitcoin. We're using Bitcoin super finality. Bitcoin, the L1, very bomb proof. It was voted at the high school prom, most likely to continue living after 100 years. The Ethereum EVM, again, very seasoned. Its time in market is almost a decade. I think it is a decade at this point. Very much time tested with the Darwinian trial by fire that's so crucial to security in our ecosystem. And then finally, all that audit knowledge and the security of the L2 Hemi itself. So all of that put together is, to me, one of the most attractive things to I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but I'm a Bitcoin pragmatist. I think Bitcoin makes sense from a number of perspectives. And I think that is why choosing Hemi makes a lot of sense from a Bitcoin maximalist and a Bitcoin pragmatist perspective. Max, do you have any other thoughts about on the security side about why choose Hemi? But to me, that's there's very much a security story here to be told.
I think that covers the majority of it. The one thing I'd add is also by giving developers the tools to build more Bitcoin native applications, we'll see, maybe it's not tomorrow, but a month, 2 months, 3 months, new types of applications that offer different risk profiles. And some of those will be very, very minimal risk profiles with native Bitcoin. So for example, a version of Bitcoin staking to be able to participate in cross-chain liquidity protocols where you retain full custodianship of your Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain. If Hemi disappeared tomorrow, you'd still be able to pull your Bitcoin out. And so I think the design of Hemi lends our network to being a home for a lot of diverse yield opportunities, and some of those will be very, very secure, very, very self-custodial, very, very Bitcoin native. And so for the people who are the most risk averse, even looking at, I don't know whether ETFs are ever going to, go and look for yield on the underlying assets or anything like that, but some of the very conservative institutions, even they would feel comfortable with a lot of the non-custodial, lower yield but lower risk protocols that people could build on HVM that they couldn't build in other less Bitcoin native systems.
great answers. Just being respectful of time here, I have one Jeff-specific question, one towards Max and Jeff, but then we also have some general questions. Max, how are you on time? Are you good to go a little longer?
Yeah, I can stay on for another probably half hour.
Okay, amazing. All right. Jeff, this is actually a follow-up from Satoshi Stories, the series that we did on YouTube. It says, I watched Satoshi Stories, and you mentioned that back in the day, you gave away quite a lot of Bitcoins for free during the early days. Do you have any regrets doing this, seeing where Bitcoin is now?
That's definitely a frequently asked question. And if wishes were horses, I would certainly like to see 15,000 Bitcoin in my Bitcoin wallet today. There's absolutely no question about that. But it's really philosophically, the bigger question is, would Bitcoin be where it is? And that's where you get into the no regrets territory of, if there was not the Bitcoin boosting that we did when Bitcoin was worth 25 cents, when Bitcoin was worth $1, would Bitcoin be worth $100,000 today? And it's an unanswerable question. It's fun to hop in the mental time machine, but you never know. You never know. But that's why in the early days that you give away bounties in the native currency. Remember, the whole point was to get people using Bitcoin at a time when nobody was using any crypto and nobody had heard of crypto. And getting people over that initial trust hurdle with the first ever decentralized digital currency was a big trust hurdle and a big education hurdle. And so paying people, specifically developers in Bitcoin, made a lot of sense. And it still makes a lot of sense. It forces the recipient to think about the currency and use the currency wisely, and they become onboarded as a user as well. And in 2010, when is very, very early days, when nobody had heard of payment processors like BitPay and things of that nature, onboarding and this is what I was paid the bounties for, onboarding shopping cart payment methods for Bitcoin was something that was absolutely needed at that time. So it's absolutely worth it. If I was in a time machine, would do again, maybe stash a few more Bitcoin aside though.
Thank you so much for that. Here is one, and by here I mean HAIR. Does anyone on stage know who launched the HAIR token liquidity pool?
No idea.
Not
Nope.
me.
All right, it was in the hopper. Had to ask. All right. So, do you plan to add account abstraction in the future, and would it even be necessary?
Yeah, so with the upcoming activation of the Pectra features in L2, that'll enable basically feature parity with the account abstraction features available on Ethereum. And I'll also add on to that, and I'll admit I don't know a ton of details here, but one of our sister projects is doing some interesting stuff with account abstraction as well, so stay tuned for that.
All right, thank you. What is the estimated time for all the staking, LP, minting, and tunnel to show up in points? And a follow-up question, when will the point system be automatic and not manually implemented?
So staking tunnel, there's a couple of things there. So LP is currently and has been for a little bit of time now automatic. So that shows there's a couple of people that have like situations where if you use Steer or something else like that as a liquidity manager, that can sometimes like create a complexity for things. So that portion can still need to be manual in most cases. working around that at the moment. Staking, once again, that has also always been automatic. The tunnel process, that kind of depending on which asset you're utilizing, is either manual or automatic. So on the majority of blue chip assets, which is really what's the general makeup is. That's automatic. There is a couple USDT, for example, because of it's kind of hard to explain, but there's a reason why when you go to tunnel USDT, there's some complexity that makes it kind of not appear real time. So that I have to double check and kind of do a manual process on. As far as the more pointing question of when will it be fully automated, continuously working on that. Absinthe has been behind the scenes to not only work on their V2 product, which they recently launched internally, and also like a different style of adapter. So instead of looking at things via like a subgraph modality, it will be done via listeners, which is much more efficient, much more real time, much more streamlined for users. This is kind of what we're seeing in the point space in general. Optimism's most recent points endeavor for their current stable product is using that similar methodology. It's one of the first to do so. That's going very well. So this is something that we will be moving towards for future iterations as soon as it's fully supported by Absinthe as a third party. So doing the best on that front, and this week expect to have 2 additional kind of optimizations for making everything as automatic as possible. So most bridge assets, or technically all bridge assets, should be automatic by end of week. Have been working on that behind the scenes. And then also, although this wasn't a direct question, I'm sure it will come up, the POP portion of points from testnet, also, we had re-exported that and had found all of the missing wallets there. So that will also be resolved. So a lot of headway being made there, just not always visible. So we'll make an additional update about that towards the end of the week when everything's kind of collectively pushed out.
All right. Thank you, John. Here we go. What is the value of a pop point? Max had previously mentioned that the target is 4 miners or endorsements per keystone. Right now, there are often more than 10 miners per block. Does this mean they are mining at a loss?
Not necessarily. So what we've communicated about pop points is that they are meant to simulate post-TGE economic conditions, and unfortunately I have to leave it at that. However, the current payout algorithm is not using the retargeting logic, so we will be updating in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, but probably sometime next week to the final post-TGE payout logic, at which point we will have the retargeting behavior. So right now what it's doing is just distributing 100 pop points amongst anyone who does a successful pop transaction within roughly an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes. The new payout logic will be changing that total amount distributed. So instead of it being 100 points evenly distributed, it'll be, it might be 50 points. And then when Bitcoin fees increase, it's now 300 points per block. And so there's no fixed, for anyone currently pop mining, there's no fixed calculus for whether what you're doing is profitable or not. And obviously a lot of that depends on a lot of other factors with what actually happens with the pop points and that relative to the Bitcoin fees that you're paying. But there's nothing in the current payout economics that would necessarily make running more than 4 independent pop miners be doing so at a loss, if that makes sense. So when we do update that logic, then it will be targeting, and obviously since there's no real world value currently for pop points, it's still very much, just people's expectations and projections on what the value of those pop points will be. But at that point, at least the final mechanic will be in place. So whether it's profitable or not would be based on people's own analysis of what those points are worth, but it will be targeting for people basically feeling like they are getting a portion of pop points that is profitable with their analysis. I know that was a pretty convoluted way to explain it, but basically, no, you're not necessarily at a loss or at a profit right now, because we don't have that rebalancing mechanism in. And then once we do have that rebalancing mechanism, it'll still be based on people's perception of that hot points value until post TGE, when it's actually just regular tokens getting paid out directly, and then it's really easy to do the math on.
I thought that was a very voluted way. I don't know if that's a word, but who gives a shit? It is now.
Not convoluted, it's provoluted.
Yeah. No, it's just voluted. No, but that was awesome. Thank you. All right. When will all the NFTs, including hatchlings, be transferred to mainnet? And would working with someone like Magic Eden be an option to expand the Hemi NFT marketplace?
Those will definitely be done soon, and I would definitely, I won't commit to this technically, but it should definitely be before TGE. Obviously, there's still timing that's being figured out. As for Magic Eden, can't really speak too much to that side because I'm not super into the NFT space. I think there's definitely cool stuff we could do with NFT partners, whether it's Magic Eden in particular or other ones. There's definitely some cool stuff we could do, and we will be doing something interesting around them for the community. We're still figuring out exactly what that is, but yeah, definitely do expect Hemi hatchlings in the near future, and it's just basically a matter of carving out some engineering time to get it deployed and done correctly. And then as far as what you'll be able to do with them, still up in the air, but we are working on that. And if anyone has any suggestions for cool stuff that makes sense for NFT holders, especially a fungible NFT, let us know.
All right.
In regard to NFT platforms, there should be one that launches by the end of the week as well. So yes, definitely we'll have more NFT platforms coming on board.
Well, that's awesome. Late breaking news. Perfect. Thank you. Where are we now? I think this is a Phil question. Can you share anything regarding the ambassador program? Any details or timing regarding this?
As he struggles to find the mute button. Timing soon. Stay tuned.
All right.
But yeah,
love that.
those details are coming together quickly. All I can say is stay tuned.
Perfect. That would literally be the exact answer I would give as well. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Obviously, I have another John Greenwood question. With the first verification period coming to an end, is there any details you can share regarding when the second Deimos verification will start? And also for new listeners, can you explain the purpose of the two epoch verifications?
Sure. So first of all, yes, just to recap, yesterday we announced that midnight UTC, I believe it is, midnight on Wednesday ends Epoch 1 for verification. I let that run for a really long time. You know, the thought process that we have is basically, okay, Deimos utilizes biometrics in order to verify that a user is not only unique, but only exists within the system one time. With that being said, Verify basically adds a timestamp to that verification and says, okay, at said date, said time, the user was still the same person that they were when they signed up, or at least the same biometric that they were when they signed up. So the first verification period ran for quite some time. The second one, I would say within like 7 to 10 days at most, we will open that up, and it will run for a couple of weeks, most likely. It depends. So it will definitely be shorter though than the first epoch. And the thought process of doing it a couple of times is to ensure that users are still in control of their wallets. There's been it's hard for me to estimate, but maybe 100 tickets since mainnet of people that have lost access to wallets, hacked, exploited, etc. That's no longer their active wallet. So there's that methodology behind it, and then also an anti-Sybil / anti conglomerate, if you will, mechanism where one of the mechanisms of people kind of getting around things is saying, okay, well, let me make one account. I'll have, use my face on it. Let me use a second account. I'll use my girlfriend, right? There's only so much you can do to combat this. On the high end of this, like the ultimate scale is you have, these groups, let's say that have 100 people that will do this, usually in kind of exploit, the point system, right? Well, when you add in multiple verifications, it gets much more difficult to kind of match up who's who. So, this previously started with, when users signed up, mostly on testnet or at the beginning of mainnet, we kind of get that initial, okay, this is user X, right? Then on verification, that needs to match. And we've seen it be fruitful. If you just look at the numbers, of how many people verified versus, initial mint, it goes down, each time that there's a subsequent verification. So after 2 verifications, feel very comfortable that all of those users that are have verified twice and have passed are definitely real and authentic. So that's kind of the methodology as well as some timelining. Once again, I expect to commence this sometime next week for verification period 2, and it will last for, a week or 2 at least. So.
And also just add on to that, even though it's a bit of a pain doing the 2 verifications, ultimately that lets us have a really powerful de-sybil mechanism, which means that actual real humans are getting more rewards because they're not getting, siphoned off by people who are gaming the system.
Yeah, thanks for that, Max. I kind of got mind scrambled there. To add on quickly, like just a quick stat, at Deimos, like we've looked at numerous airdrops, and obviously it's or maybe not so obviously, it's a little bit hard to run math after the fact because you don't know who was behind this. But when looking at just Sybil detection mechanisms, mostly on-chain data, not biometric data, we obviously don't have that. For most of the major airdrops that people have experienced over the past couple of years, anywhere from like 30 to 70% of wallets are usually Sybils. So if you look at anything like that, it generally creates a huge problem. So in any rewards points program, it's really good to have some type of implementation so that you can kind of weed that out. And, if there is rewards coming out of something, you want to make sure it goes to real people that have brought positive traction and not bots or, people exploiting the system. So that's our thought process behind it.
All right, thank you so much for that. I know there were a lot of questions since that announcement went up, so really appreciate the clarity. This next question, someone quotes the docs. I haven't seen this done before, but I respect the shit out of it. Off-chain participation. Points are also given for contributions to social platforms and community engagement that support network growth. Active community contributions, recognizing significant community involvement and impactful contributions off-chain. I read this in the incentive and point section of the Hemi docs. Can you give further details regarding this?
Yeah, sorry, cannot find the unmute button. So there's a couple of things. Regarding like social tasking, that was something that we did primarily in testnet. There has been some instances of that on mainnet, although pretty rare. Generally, it's like, okay, if you hop on a specific AMA or, you attend an event, there's points attached to that. So kind of more of a real world presence type thing. Also, there's certain things such as like right now we're running a campaign with Beluga. Beluga has an onboarding package for its subset of users. Those users receive, which technically this is open to everyone. That was added to the dashboard yesterday. Those users receive like an added flat rate. I believe it's 500 points if they take part in that campaign. That includes some social initiatives there. So during mainnet, we've been pretty, or during testnet, I should say, we were pretty lenient with, okay, we wanted to build out a social presence, and sharing is caring was kind of the methodology there. Build out Hemi as much as possible, on socials. During mainnet, it's been much more EV, economic value. That's really the methodology here. So not as much of it on mainnet as on testnet. After, I would say like a month from now, I expect to change that slightly, where there will be a little bit more of a campaign, like social type of campaign that we'll see on platforms like Guild. We'll bring that back and, do some activations there.
Thank you so much for that. Is that a follow-up? No. Oh, here's actually a question that was in general chat, but I saw it a couple times, so I listed it as well. Is there a timeline where community members will see new tasks coming for platforms like Galaxy, etc.?
Yeah. So, is there a time? So, yeah. So, basically what I just said. So, we're pending a couple things internally. Like, once again, the value of mainnet points is really to get users on Hemi utilizing the tech, utilizing our ecosystem partners. So we do have a couple of additional activations on that front that are coming out. Once that is completed, there's a couple of lower friction items that we're looking to add, and that includes things like Guild Galaxy. So, definitely in the forefront of the pile, I would say, approximately a month down the line. But we will see additional activations like that. Similar to kind of the testnet methodology, though, they will be the point weight on that will be relatively low. The thought process there, if that is what you're looking to contribute, by all means, we definitely appreciate it. The weighting will generally always be towards, positive EV traction on Hemi mainnet, but, this will definitely exist. So, approximately like 3 to 6 weeks, I would say, target around a month.
Awesome news. I just lost the next question. Just give me a second. I'm so sorry. Where the hell is it? I was scrolling because someone popped in a meme. Sorry, squirrel brain. Here we go. Has Max's knowledge of quantum-resistant methods benefited Hemi in any way?
Not really yet. I think in the future it would be fun to do, be one of the first EVM chains to implement some sort of post-quantum signature algorithm, but to date, really nothing on that angle.
All right. I think that actually brings us to the end of questions. Wow. That was great, though.
We also do have Marco up here. Marco, is there anything you wanted to add on any of the Bitcoin DeFi use cases, HVM, pot mining, BFG rework, anything else you wanted to mention there?
No, I think we got some pretty comprehensive answers, actually, from Jeff. They were pretty good. I would have answered them pretty much the same.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
For having me.
Does anyone have any closing stuff? We really don't have a lot of community updates this week, and due to the time, we're gonna kind of keep it short. So we will return to Rap God next week, but with a partner and Jeff joining, there just isn't the time this week. I'm so sorry.
Although Jeff breaking into song was not on my bingo card for this week.
No, I'm giving him the Rap God role for that.
Yeah, just do it.
I don't know if he's hit level 5 yet, though. That one guy's gonna be really bummed.
Definitely needs to post more.
He has to post more so he can hit level 5 at least, bro. Any info on the badge one? Do you remember that? Peace. I do not remember that. I don't know what you're talking about. What's the badge one? Does anyone know what the badge one? Is that...
I'm drawing a blank.
Did we have like an ecosystem partner who had like a Hemi badge or something? Maybe that's it?
This is like vaguely ringing bell. At the same time, I can't pinpoint what it was from. I don't.
This is coming back to me. That was a long time ago. I mean, it wasn't something that originated with us, and yeah, I don't know where that
was
went.
Miracle just posted. That was Mint Park, right?
Oh,
that's
yeah,
right, yeah.
that was. Yeah, you'd have to reach out to them directly. We don't really have like a direct line of sight into that. It's an ecosystem partner, so it's something being built on Hemi, but not from us. So you'd need to reach out to them directly. Community side, like Phil said, ambassador program, very soon and being fast tracked. Same with games, very soon and being fast tracked. I think that's really it. Just there's a lot of stuff coming. I just can't really say any more details right now, which I know is a non-answer and very convoluted as opposed to Max's voluted answer. But here we go. When OG rolls, so OG / Hemithic, still coming soon. Lot of engineering work on the back side for that. So, unfortunately, my answer is still I don't know, TBD, but it's in the works. And I think that brings me to the end of my community updates this week, because everything is really going to just end with a TBD or / very soon. So I will turn it over to Max, Phil, and John for final. Damn it, Marco. Before you know what? Forget. Before GTA 6. That's when. I promise you it will be before GTA 6. That's all the info I'm allowed to share. But yeah, okay, so turning it over to Max, John, and Phil for some outros, and then we're going to wrap it up. Thank you to everyone who joined, our entire mod team, and also welcome Excalibur. You may have noticed he is a new community helper. We brought that back. So stay active, stay engaged, help folks out, and yeah, rock and roll. Oh yeah, John, I pinged you about that too, by the way, if you can check your Slack messages. All right, that's really it for me now. Passing over to John, Max, and Phil.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming out to our special edition Midweek with Max. And huge shout out as always to the moderators keeping Rick somewhat sane and helping keep us on track and talking about the technology, the partners, the TVL, everything that we're working on. And yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. Stay tuned for the upcoming Pectra activation on L2 and some other probably further down the line, but some other cool use cases coming out of one of our sister projects that'll make use of that in a fun and interesting way. And yeah, really appreciate everyone coming out, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, definitely keep the energy going online. Like and follow the KOLs that have been posting on our behalf, and keep it going in here too.
Same for me, as always. Thank you for joining, and some cool things coming up with points that we'll be adding this week, next week. So stay tuned. Thank you, guys.
One final thing, Max, can you please send Alex your address so we can send you some hair tokens?
Oh yeah, sorry.
We'll
do that today.
I just saw him ping you about that, and I just wanted to make sure we could do that. He's hopefully before GTA 6, he said. So.
Far before GTA 6, yeah. I'll get that done today.
All right, amazing. All right, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you in socials and Discord and all the things, and hopefully some of you in New York next Thursday. So, take care.
Yeah, I think we'll have. I think I'll be out there in New York. So if anyone's out there, please let us know.
All right. Thanks so much, gang. Thanks to the team. Thanks for the community, and we'll see you soon. Take care, all.